Okay, hello guys, welcome back. After last week's video, I thought I'd give the E30 a clean and let you have a proper look at it and tell you a little bit more about it. So just going to have a quick walk around the outside first. It's now had a sponge put over it for the first time in possibly 2 years, and is a lot cleaner than it was last week. So, I literally just washed it, haven't leathered it off. I just wanted to get it actually clean, so that we can talk a little bit more about it. Car, I think 9 years ago now, following the death by rust of my previous E30 325i, I decided that I wanted the touring model, and it had got to be a 325i, it had got to be a manual, and this one came along. So I'm just going to show you around the outside of the car properly first, tell you what's been done outside and what hasn't. So the paintwork, first and foremost, is most of the panels are original. So starting at the front, the bonnet's original, the front wings are original, the front bumper and the front panel are original. This door unfortunately is not. This was off a breaker that was in the same colour because the original front door was rotten. The rear door is original, complete with big dent, and rear panel on this side is original as well. The tailgate is a replacement. This tailgate, along with that driver's door, came off a 318i Touring, so I've just switched the badge over. Obviously the paint is a match. The lower valance is a bit of a mess. That's been poorly repaired and poorly painted. The panel on this side, that's all original. The two doors on this side are original. The glass, apart from the tailgate, is original, and this front wing is original as well. Here on the roof, obviously roof skin, original body shell, but the sunroof panel has also been replaced. So what else has been changed outside then? Well, the number plates I am made, because the originals were, or what came on the car, wouldn't have passed an MOT. The probably most obvious thing about the externals of the car are these Alpina wheels. Unfortunately they're not the staggered set, they're the same width front and rear. If money was no object, I would try and find some of the slightly wider rears. They are horrendously expensive. And externally you may notice that the car sits slightly lower than standard. It has Bilstein B4 shocks all round, but it also has the IVAC Pro kit, the lowering spring kit, so it does have a slightly non-standard stance. So let's have a look under the bonnet. So we have a slightly grubby M20 B25 coupled to the 5-speed manual gearbox. So in here is pretty much standard. I think the car had been in a barn or something when I first got it, because there was gravel in all the nooks and crannies, and some sort of rodent appears to have eaten some of the wiring. This bit here, you can see, this still works. That's the HAD warning light. and that does need a repair. When I first got the car, the ABS on this side, that had been completely chewed through by whatever had been living in the engine bay, so that had to be repaired on that side. So on this side you can see a little bit more clearly. The rocker cover inlet manifold I had soda vapour blasted before I put the engine back together. The head has been off. Those who know these engines know that these things frequently break. They just disintegrate because they get so much heat. I had to have the head taken off. The head was pressure tested, skimmed, new valves, new valve guides, stem seals, and then put back together with a new headset, including the new proper head bolts to replace the original hex head bolts, which are known for failing. The main reason they had to be taken off was because the studs that hold the exhaust on, which you can't see unfortunately, I don't know if you can get those in, can you see those? Can't really see them. There were several of those that were snapped, and typically the ones at this end of the engine bay you just can't get at with the head in situ. Very, very difficult to fix if they snap, which they frequently do, and you find that the actual manifold goes banana shaped, it warps with heat, so that had to be skimmed back to flat at the same time as the head was skimmed. The machine shop said that was quite a difficult job. I know nothing about machining, so I can only take their word for it. I seem to have a bit of a weep around here. I'm not sure whether this just needs tightening up slightly, whether this needs a new rocker cover gasket. I have had it off a couple of times to do the valve clearances, and yes, otherwise it's pretty much a standard engine bay. Okay, so in here, just get in, we have nice clear gauges, MTEC 1 steering wheel, which is not original to the car but is period correct. The MTEC 2 wheel didn't come out until I think on the F-Reg cars, which would have been a year later. No air conditioning, standard extra controls for the rear wash wipe, which you get on the Touring obviously, standard clock, crappy Aldi stereo. When the car came to me, I did have a Blaupunkt stereo in it, which is I'm guessing was the original one, but all it did when you switched it on was gave a high-pitched screech. Radio didn't work, tape didn't work, it power on, and that was about it. So that went to someone else. These, which you may have seen in the earlier video, these are obviously non-standard. It's one of my favourite modifications. Not many modifications on this car, but this is probably my favourite one. These are Audi gauges. This gauge pod they fit into, which replaces the ashtray. That's a CNC machine piece of metal to fit the right size for this centre console, and then I covered it in a thin layer of foam rubber and then some leather over the top before fitting the gauges in. You do need, for the oil pressure gauge and the oil temperature gauge, specific senders. That's probably worth a video of its own, to be fair, the actual install of this. But basically you need a T-piece to the block for the oil pressure gauge to work if you want to continue to use the light on the dash as well, and then you need a specific sender for the temperature gauge. And the temperature gauge never seems to get far off the bottom. I don't know what normal oil temperature is, but I don't know if the sender is wrong, because it only ever seems to go just over that bottom line. So it powers, obviously, they all work, but I've tried 2 senders in it now, both which were supposed to be the same, the right sender for this gauge, and they both gave the same reading, so don't know. Okay, up here we've got the very nice BMW check system, which you only get in the 6-cylinder cars. You don't get it in the 4-cylinder cars. It's possible, but very, very, very difficult to retrofit into a 4-cylinder car. And we've got an electric sunroof as well. So as you can see, the seats are the BMW sports seats again. These were not standard fit on this car. When I bought them, there was some damage here, and I gave it to a trimmer with the original seat, the original cloth seat, which was knackered, the standard comfort spec seats, and he did a good job of repairing them. The only thing was he hadn't got a big enough piece of cloth to do the entire bolster, so there is a join just there. But to be fair, I would rather have a join than a big gaping ugly hole there. So yeah, these are very nice. Again, these are one of the things that I really like about these older BMWs, these nice sports seats. So in the back of the car, as you can see, with the seat all the way back for the driver, there's not a lot of leg room. These aren't big cars. I'll just put the seat all the way front in the passenger seat, just so that you can see in comparison. So if you have the seat slid all the way forward on the passenger seat, you know, there is a reasonable amount of leg room, but these aren't big cars at all. You also sit slightly higher up in the rear seats than you do in the front. Seat bases are slightly higher. And then here we have what makes the Touring, this load bay. Obviously this was completely new to BMW when they announced this car. It's not a massive space at all. I mean, it probably gives you a bigger load space than an equivalent hatchback, but it's nothing like the estate cars of the day in terms of the carrying capacity. But BMW designed this as, I suppose you could say, one of the first sort of lifestyle vehicles. It was never meant to be an estate car as such. It was more just for people who liked the 3 Series, liked the sporting drive, but needed a little bit more practicality than the saloon could offer. So it just filled a nice gap in the market. There weren't many other fast estate type cars around at the time. I suppose you've got the BMW, the Volvo 740 Turbo. If you consider that, it's not really a sports car. And there was some Alfa Romeo sport wagons as well. That was pretty much it in terms of quick estate cars of the day. So yeah, so the interior is a nice place to be. Every time I get in this car, I liken it to, it's like putting on an old comfy t-shirt. Brings back a lot of memories from when I was younger, having these cars when I was in my 20s. Yeah, so it's a nice place to be. So some of you may have noticed that this is an E-Reg car, so that makes it an early model. Most of the Tourings that you used to see around, they didn't really come on stream until sort of FG Reg onwards, really, was when probably the bulk of them were actually sold. They ran in production in one form or another with various engines until I think L Reg were the last mass produced ones. There is one or two M-Reg cars knocking around, but the very first cars were E-Reg cars. The main difference is these headlights that you see here. These are known as the bullseye headlights, because they have the early headlights were both like the main beam, whereas the slightly later headlights had this reflector in the middle. But they only did these for a very short period, and then the later cars, again, that you'll see from about an F-Reg onwards, they have like they call it a smiley, like a further cutout in the reflector there. So again, this is identified as an early car because of things like that. The truth of the matter is, they don't get any earlier than this one. When I bought this car, I was initially buying some spare parts for it, contacted a BMW dealer, gave them the VIN number, the parts department, and asked them to just give me the original build spec of the car, just so that I know what it would have had when it left the factory. Some BMW dealers are good like that, and they will do that kind of thing for you. So anyway, I gave them the number, and at the time it came back that the car was a pre-production car. That's odd. I looked at the date, and the date that it was built was January 1988. Now, production of these cars didn't actually start until March, April of 1988. And then I looked at the VIN number, and the VIN number ends 001. So I thought at that point, no, it can't be. Contacted BMW, gave them the VIN number, and they came back to me and said, yep, this was the first right-hand drive car off the line. So this is definitely the oldest BMW E30 Touring in the UK, and it was the first off the line. So some of you purists may now be saying, why the hell have you put Alpina wheels, lowering springs, changed the interior, changed the steering wheel, changed the headlining? Well, it's my car and it ain't going anywhere. So, well, that's it, it's my car. So there are things, I do like to try and keep things original, but there's originality and there's sympathetic upgrades. So I like to think what I've done, really, it's not too blasphemous. I suppose putting the Audi dials in maybe more than some people can bear, but there you go. Anyway, I've got some work to do on this car, so join me in a future video and we'll talk a little bit more about what the plans are now that it's got an MOT and now we can use it. Thank you for watching. If you like what you see, please like the video, give me any comments. If there's any corrections you want to make, if I've got something wrong, please tell me. And please subscribe if you like what you see. Thanks for watching. See you soon.